if there's any one player, it's probably Terry Wilson, the quarterback, the junior college quarterback. I think he's like the second or third highest rated, dual threat QB in the junior college ranks. He's an early enrollee. He's already on campus. He had his first. He actually met with the media yesterday, and he seems. I mean, he's thrilled. Seems thrilled to death to be here, and that's something we can talk about. The quarterback job at Kentucky is wide open right now, and that's probably one of the big selling points for him. For him coming here. Another guy, Stanley Garner, who's a cornerback out of Florida. Coaching staff is really high on him. He could be somebody who could come in next year, maybe even play this year. But then after, Mike Edwards will be gone, Derek Beatty, a couple of those guys will be gone. Somebody can come right in, possibly, and play, get some playing time from day one. Like I said, they were hoping Peters was going to be one of those guys, but as we just said, he's decided to go elsewhere. But like I said, Wilson and Garner, and then McCall and Kennard. Also a tight end they got out of Ohio, Brendan Bates. He's very, very highly regarded. I think he played in the bowl game. I can't think of the name of it, but the high school game that just happened, I think last weekend or a week or so ago. He was one of a couple of cats that played in that game. They think he can come right in and maybe, be the heir apparent to C.J. Conrad at the tight end spot.
Kevin McGuffey joining us to talk Kentucky football with National Signing Day just 1 week away. We are trying to hit all the aspects of the offseason situation there in Lexington. You do mention in putting a cap on the recruiting class here, all the talent that comes from the north side, meaning the Mason-Dixon line cutting right north of Lexington there along the Ohio River. It's just it's a completely different dynamic than just about everybody else in the SEC that's going south or staying home and recruiting right there. 6 of the top 9 rated players in this class, as you well know, Kevin, coming from Michigan and Ohio. Ohio has been a big spot for Mark Stoops during his tenure there in Lexington, and Michigan has also supplied some big talent in this class. So looking at the quarterback situation that you mentioned with Terry Wilson coming in from Garden City Community College there in Kansas, Drew Barker was a guy that if you follow college football in depth, we thought that he was going to be the guy that was going to take charge and not ever look over his shoulder, that he was the guy. It's not necessarily panned out for him, but he's got one last go around. So how would you assess this quarterback situation right now?
Well, the interesting thing about Barker, he started 2 years ago, had a back injury in the third game of the season, and then Steven Johnson, who himself was a junior college transfer out of California, came in, took over, and just never looked back. And he's over the last 2 years, he's gone down as one of the best quarterbacks Kentucky's had, and certainly one of the most popular. He's graduated, and as you said, Drew Barker seems to be the heir apparent. And then just recently, Barker announced that he was going to transfer. He was going to take his 5th year, use the 5th year rule, and was going to transfer to a different school. And all the signs seemed to point that he was going to go to Cincinnati, because that was one of the schools, when he came out of high school, that was really high on him. And then just in the last few days, he made an announcement, said that he's not going to play football at all, that he's done. He's not going to try to play. He's just going to finish getting his degree. And so it was kind of really, really, I don't want to say a shock, but it was, quite the surprise, which makes you wonder. He's never said anything, but it makes you wonder if that back injury was just, a whole lot worse than what anybody thought. So, like I said, he was, going into this, everyone thought, okay, he's going to be the guy to beat out. And now, as you said, Kentucky is going to be in the position come the fall where their starting quarterback has never thrown a pass in a Division I game. So they have 2 guys who've never played. You have, Terry Wilson and Gunnar Hoke, who was honestly the star of the spring game last year. He threw for a couple touchdowns and like 180 yards, and actually, outplayed Steven Johnson, but he's never played in an actual game, never had a snap. So those, that's going to be the battle. The interesting thing, going through the spring is to see how these two guys do and who ends up, being the man. They have two other quarterbacks, Danny Clark, who was a former Ohio State commitment. He committed to Ohio State like after his freshman year in high school and was a commit for like 3 years, and then basically I think got recruited over for lack of a better term, and ended up in Kentucky. And the coaching staff is very high on him. He didn't, he played a lot on the scout team, I think, last year. And then they have one other quarterback, Walker Wood, who's a hometown guy from here at Lexington Lafayette. He's been, they really haven't had a chance to get a good look at him because he's been injured. He hurt his knee in the state championship game for Lafayette a couple years ago, and then he's had a couple of shoulder surgeries since he's been here. So, at the most important, skill position on the field, like I said, Kentucky's going to go into this season, barring like a transfer, fifth-year guy from somewhere, basically somebody who's never played a game in college, Division I.
Gunnar Hoke from Dublin, Ohio, was a top 40 player at his position as a pro-style quarterback and top 40 in the state of Ohio at number 37, according to 247 Sports.